welcome to the Action Shooting Show. Tonight we have Mike Ford. We have Jimmy Heldman.
Yep.
And we're going to do kind of a different episode tonight. It's going to be a pre-match. We're actually going to talk about a match that Jimmy's putting on here in the Ohio area. So I guess to start us off, Jimmy, tell us about Whiskey Hotel and maybe just a little background on it. What's your guys' mission statement? Like, what are you guys trying to do? That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Jimmy Heldman. I own Whiskey Hotel. And Whiskey Hotel, we're a training company, but we're also a match company, or we host shooting competitions. And what my goal was to bridge the gap between the competition world and the, for lack of better terms, the tactical world. Spent a lot of time, spent 13 years in the military. And a lot of times I would hear military guys be like, well, I'm never going to shoot a competition because X, Y, Z, things aren't done, yada, yada, insert whatever excuse. So I thought, what if I started making competitions that did those things? And maybe we could eliminate that excuse and get these guys involved. Still didn't get very many of them involved. But anyways, on top of that, a lot of people know us or know me as the DMR guy. That's probably an accurate title, I guess. That's kind of what Whiskey Hotel, I guess, its bread and butter is intermediate distance with carbine. So yeah, we host 4 matches, 3 different styles of matches. We host the Team Ruck match, we host the day-night match, and this one we haven't hosted yet this year, and we call it the resupply match. And the resupply match is a little unique. We contract the ammo for the match. So all the competitors included in your price is your ammo you need to shoot the match. You show up and get an ammo draw that morning, and you and your teammate get 50 rounds to 0 and gather dope. And then again, it was one of them things to take away people kind of excuses like, oh, well, I would have shot well, except for they were using match ammo and I wasn't. And what I found across, whether it be day, night, the Team Ruck, guys that do good at one discipline, they're doing good at all of them. But anyway, that's kind of a little bit about Whiskey Hotel, the training side and the competition side of what we do.
Yeah, and if you've seen our after action on the Team Ruck match, I think you guys do a great job of mixing that. I can't pretend to know the real world application or like the tactical, but as far as what I consider practical shooting, the target distances, if you have a AR-15, the target distances are what I consider not easy, but a reasonable size target at a reasonable distance. And I've shot some matches. I mean, maybe this is my opinion, at much past 500 or 600 with an AR-15, I kind of think is a parlor trick. Now I know that they are capable of shooting past that, and I've hit things past that. You start getting into, well, now I need like really specific ammo, and then and you have like the DMR rifles and stuff. We've got 18 inches with bigger scopes. It's like cool. But that is a specialty that's not necessarily your average rifle. So it's like, yeah, I can hit something at 800 or 900 yards, but that 400 or 500 is kind of reasonable with a 12.5. I can hit something at 600 yards with a 12.5 and the right optic and the right dope. And to add to that, I think the physical stuff you guys add is also practical. I've watched some stuff this week. The tactical games has gotten really, really popular. And I watched that, and some of their rules, I think they've gotten better. Some of the rules seem a little goofy. And then, like, that kind of fitness stuff, it's CrossFit, which is cool. That's a good way to train, but it's a little out of what I consider practical. Whereas everything you had, it's like, pick up this heavy stuff and move it here. Or climb over this wall. Or, like, you should be able to put a little bit of weight, 25 pounds in your gear and, like, do a 1 mile ruck. That's I think anyone who considers themselves a fit person or a healthy person should be able to do that. Does that seem?
Yeah. Sorry, Ryan. Yeah, the goal was to not exclude anyone, right? There's nothing in any of our matches that most people are not going to be able to do. Most people are going to be able to achieve all the physical tasks at all of our matches. And then, so one of the things we try to do with the competition is we try to balance speed and precision. And then we also try to offset supported and unsupported shooting. Actually, the Team Ruck this year had the least amount of unsupported shooting we've ever had in a match. That was just kind of an oversight of the match directors, right? We were trying to build fun stages, and maybe we didn't balance per se everything the best. But yeah, for every precision shot, we try to have a short, fast shot. And then for everything, again, precision or supported, we try to have something unsupported to help offset it. The other thing that I think there's like a big gap between, again, the combat world or the tactical world or whatever you want to call it, and the competition world is a lot of times in the competition world, you're working off your time versus working off the target's time. And that's one spot where hunting and the combat world kind of come together. That's very unique. You're working off the target's time instead of yours. So we try to build that in the match. It's difficult to do, but we try to incorporate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you guys do a good job of that. Coming from shooting a lot of other matches where there's like you're racing the shot timer, and the quicker you get done, the better. Your match is different, and you have that time to, not always a lot of time. I mean, especially with like some of your par times are not. It's not like there's just a abundance of time, but you do have the time to kind of balance that. Like, I need to get that shot, and I need to make good hits, but I can't spend all day doing it. So it's definitely an interesting balance. I think you guys do well at.
Yeah, the downside is the logistics of it, right? It's significantly easier to set a stage up and then say, okay, we're going to score the time on this. But now the problem we've created for ourselves is we go to set a stage up and then we have to say, okay, is this achievable? Is it too easy? Is it not too easy? And then what is a challenging enough par time that really good shooters are still going to, be rushed by this.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, I running matches with par times and stuff. You don't want, I don't mind a couple people parring out. The newer people you kind of expect are going to par out on things. The experienced shooter, every once in a while you set up a stage and it's like 3 people past the par time and everyone else, and you're like, I missed that one a little bit, but that's kind of part of being a match director. So so that gives a good idea of what they do. Let's kind of go into this Save the Kids match and talk a little bit about maybe the match mission, the charities you guys are doing it for, and then maybe the kind of match style, match flavor.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know. I think some of you guys maybe got to meet my buddy Chevy Hood. He works for a foster care group, and anyways, he kind of talked to me about a couple of these charities, and one of them's Endless Blessings, and the other one's Brave Beginnings, and they're out of Muskingum County, Ohio. Brave Beginnings works with, and I sometimes I get them backwards, so I'm thinking through it right now, but Brave Beginnings works with some of the worst case abused children, and they are, more accurately, they're a child advocacy group in Muskingum County in Zanesville, Ohio. So they provide like next level healthcare for these kids, both mentally and physically. It's some really just awful stories. But anyways, they're both, I believe it's 501c3s, both of these groups that we're supporting. And all the proceeds from the match are going to go to, we're going to split them between the two groups. So the other group is Endless Blessings. Endless Blessings works with the company that Chevy works for. And they provide money, like expendable income, for kids that are stuck in state foster care to go do things other than be stuck in state care. So they can take them fishing, they can, take them to go get something to eat or ice cream or something like that. Just some of the simple basic things that we kind of take for granted, right? Or the things that our kids might get to go do. These kids don't necessarily get to go do that. So it's kind of in a odd place that he's stuck in because he can't spend his money on the kids because it could be seen as though he's trying to buy a favor. And that being said, also, we don't necessarily want these employees having to spend money on these kids, their own money on these kids as well. So it just kind of helps provide money for them to do things with the kids. As far as the match, it's a day-night match. So you'll notice my rules say, hey, I want you to have a flashlight or a night aiming device on your rifle, along with a sling and a few other things. Well, that lineage kind of comes from the military background. But when I started these matches, we were doing day and night. And what guys would do is they would go shoot the day match, and then when they came to the night match, they'd have a different gun. I was like, well, let's shoot it with one gun, right? We're not switching guns in between day and night. So what I ended up having to do was just switch the night matches to a half day, half night. And usually what we do is we hang out, we cook hot dogs while we're waiting for it to get dark or something like that. And, just hang out with your buddies and BS a little bit, or sometimes we'll shoot side matches. We'll have like pistol or shotgun side matches for fun. And then once it starts getting low light, we'll go and we'll shoot the stages. I'm going to try to be efficient with it without watering down the stages, because you always are trying to balance like efficiency of the match and then still providing a fun scenario-based stage to the shooters. And that's kind of a hard balance to maintain. But yeah, so we've got a lot of stage prop guns that are going to be happening. We do have a shoot house, but our shoot house on site is restricted to pistol caliber. So the Team Ruck is a rifle match. We're like, hey, we kind of want to do something fun with this shoot house for it. Well, here we're going to have some stage prop guns, and that's why it says, hey, bring 50 rounds of 9mm in the stage description with you, because you're going to use stage prop guns. You're welcome to bring your own pistol. We're going to have one pistol stage. It's going to be a moving target. You're going to be in a phone booth holding the phone up to your hand, and you're going to shoot a moving target. So there's kind of a lineage of where that came from. But so you'll need 9mm for the shoot house. You'll need 9mm for that. We're going to have riding shotgun in the moving vehicle. And we may have a pretty awesome shotgun company coming down. He hasn't 100% committed to it yet, so I don't want to announce it and then it not happen. But regardless, we will have two Beretta 1301s as stage prop guns for that. And we're just going to score like best 4 pellets on the target. So bring double up buck for that. And then the last one, I said bring M855. And that's because the guns are already zeroed for M855. And I think most people can find that ammo for relatively cheap, or they already have it sitting on their shelf in their gun room. Just 20 rounds of it. We're going to put some head targets out, steel targets. And one of you is going to have thermal and the other one's going to have night vision. And you're going to be trying to communicate in 2 separate spectrums on the stage. So that's going to be interesting. We're going to see how that works out.
Yeah, that all sounds great. I liked your guys'. Are you doing the similar to the mover before, where you have a tractor pushing it?
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what we're going to do.
That is. I think we talked about it last year when we did it. I think that's the best movers we've done, or the fairest, because John Deere first gear or second gear is John Deere first gear, second gear. It's the same speed for everyone. You don't have it speeding up, slowing down. Kind of keeps a consistent match as much as you can. I mean.
Right, and I'd never heard the competitive equity term until I started listening to the podcast, and then that like put a lot of things in front of me. Like, okay, now I've got to build this, and then we like to build the stages, what I call redundant, where we set the exact same stage up twice so we can flow the match faster. Well, now that needs to be built equally across the board as well. So then it gets even more difficult to set that stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely, and the match equity, like shooter equity, I'm in the middle of that. Like, if you get a USPSA person, they want everything like 100% as equal all across the board. I'm in it to have fun. I do like a fair match if you're because you want to see how your skills compare to someone else's, and not just like, how did that stage that I shot that was way different than this other guy, like, you lose a little bit of that. So except for kind of getting equal comparison, if it's a fun match or it's a fun challenge, like I'm totally fine with a little bit of chaos thrown into the mix, just because nothing's ever the same. I mean, if I shoot stage 1 first in the morning and you shoot it late at night, the sun was in my eyes and it wasn't your eyes. Like, that's how life works. But yeah, I mean, it's a good way to do it.
I used to shoot PRS a lot. It's kind of funny because the non-PRS shooters say that I'm PRS oriented, or my matches lean more PRS. And then the PRS shooters say that my matches lean more 2-gun. I hope we find a middle ground somewhere there. Like it's comical when I hang out with my PRS friends and that's what they tell me, and then I hang out with my run and gun friends or my 3-gun friends, and then they tell me the opposite. I'm like, yeah, I know, but yeah,
No,
when I shot PRS,
yes.
when I shot PRS, that was always the thing. Like, hey, you wanted to go shoot the longest range stage first thing in the morning, right? I want the low wind first thing in the morning. You know, that was how you gained your stages. So,
Yeah, we've done that. The Wolverine, like 3 or 4 years ago when we shot it, they had a long range stage out to like 500-600. There was like no breeze, and when they released everyone, that was the first stage we absolutely shot. So no reason not to take advantages when you can get them.
yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, there's also I always have a concern when I have stages where we shoot one cardboard or paper and we're scoring it that way. What happens if the second place team has a bad team next to them? And that bad team puts a few extra shots on the second place's team's target. And now second place just became first.
Yeah, yeah, that could happen. I mean, last year our target got shot down on that first stage, and I don't think it was either of us because neither of us broke a shot when it fell. So, and we ended up we reshot it, like, but it's like if they're shooting our clip, who knows where the rest of those shots are.
Yep,
going.
we shot that style at Camp Perry, and their rule there was you pull a low one, pull a high one until you get the appropriate numbers of shots. And we started doing that, and that created some heartburn. Now, granted, the first shot pulled off your target is a low shot. Then the next one's a high shot. Well, what I saw happen one time was guy shot his target, and it was a 10-round string, and he had 10 rounds centered perfectly on his target on the X ring. And then he had 5 rounds like maybe 10 inches low of the X ring. And those targets were broke down in like 5, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And they were all in the 1 area. So pulled a low, pulled a high. He lost, I don't know, probably 15 points or so off that one target, and he was not pleased.
Yeah.
And you could tell that it wasn't him because, like I said, he had his 10 shots perfectly centered. The target next to him to his left had 5 shots about 10 inches low of the X ring, and then 5 shots on his target 10 inches low.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to make everything fair.
That's when the match director needs to use a little common sense, say, look, we know what happened, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, match director's kind of the god of that particular situation. So, you know. Mike, what do you have? You have to add anything to all this? You've been kind of quiet up there. You're muted still.
All right, let's try again. Sorry, kids woke up again and we're making a bit of a ruckus. So the match format sounds really fun, and just some of the different things that we talked about, like the ammo drop for a different match, that actually sounds really interesting because we all talk about guys and battlefield pickups and things like that. And I think that's one of the fun things with the match that for the Save the Kids match with the different stage guns is like, hey, everyone wants to have this, fantasy battlefield pickup. Well, here, battlefield pickup a 1301, which is, a pretty awesome shotgun to run. Maybe a sump gun or maybe some stuff with some clip-ons, and that just sounds like an awesome match. So it's definitely one that it sounds like it's just grab your buddy and grab the ammo that you need and all that kind of stuff and go have an adventure. So certainly I can tell you from going over and shooting Jimmy's range a couple times, that range is just open to some fantastic stages and some really cool opportunities. You don't see a lot of ranges that are more, hey, you have a simple flat long range, and then you've got bays, and that's it. In Ohio, we're kind of limited. We don't get a lot of natural terrain type feeling situations. And that range over there really gives you some interesting natural terrain experiences. So it sounds like an excellent match to go to. Yeah, I definitely encourage the people that can get an opportunity to try it out to get over there.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I get this a lot. I think a lot of guys are intimidated by the physical side, or the other one is some guys will see that 500-yard target and they dwell on it. And it's really, the match is not based around shooting 500-yard targets, and it's not based around being extremely physically fit. Like, does being physically fit help you? Sure. Does being able to hit a 500-yard target help you? Yeah, absolutely. But you're not required to be either of those things. I think 25% is the goal we try to reach for on our matches over 300. So with that said, 75% of the match is shot under 300, and 25% of the match is shot under 50.
Yeah, and if we're being honest, like most ARs, wherever you're zeroed, 300 and in is like, I hold on, I hold a little high, and you can get a hit. You know, if you can see it, you're either holding the top or maybe a little over the edge, you're probably going to get your hit, you know. Obviously, as you get a little bit past 300, yeah, now I need to know holds and stuff like that. But you can get away with a lot with an AR just with either a BDC reticle or just kind of like holding high. Up, I'm going to put a little bit of over the head. You know, head and a half now over the target, and I got my hit. Took 3 shots to find that, but, I mean, if you got a little experience, you could dope out a rifle on the clock if you have to.
Yeah, and that's such a great thing. I'll make it quick. That's such a great thing with getting out to matches that have some of this intermediate distance. Is I'd say in the past with a lot of matches, everyone is like, hey, we've got that one long range stage with like 10 or 12-inch plates at 200, maybe 300. Some matches can push out farther than that, but then they go to like torso steel, AC steel, things like that. And I love all the intermediate range rifle because it kind of lends to some of the skill set and some of the carbine stuff that I enjoy doing, but it gives people an opportunity to take their rifles and do things that they're not getting to do at a lot of other matches. And a lot of people don't have the opportunities at their home ranges to push past that 100 or 200 yards and experience that. And so, yeah, sometimes new experiences in a match format can be tough, but I think that it's all fairly doable if you have a good zero and you have some common sense to make those adjustments on the fly, on the clock. So, and it's all good skill that I think you should have as a shooter.
Yeah, absolutely. We, that shooter that has enough common sense, or has enough, maybe common sense in the right term, match experience to find that patch of dirt and shoot real quick and go, oh, okay, this is what's going on. Or, hey, I took a spill. Maybe I need to just run this stage with iron sights, or, I'm missing the target when I shouldn't have. Should I use my backup sight? Should I use something different, than what I'm trying to do right now, and figure out how to solve these problems on the clock? And I think a lot of those, like what Mike's talking about, that comes from experience a lot.
Absolutely. There is, once you get comfortable, it's like, I haven't seen this before, but I kind of seen it before. You know what I mean? Like that match experience is just, you can call it match experience, but it's shooting experience. I mean, if it's hunting prepares you for, you got one chance at the shot. I got to have the patience to get it. Sometimes that's the only, if there's one shot in a match, we've done a run and gun a couple years ago, had like a 600-yard shot. You had 30 seconds and 2 rounds to impact this 600-yard. And it wasn't a small target. It was pretty generous for that distance. But 2 rounds in 30 seconds is very difficult for some people, and like me. And then actually they gave you time to like get in your position and kind of get, you could pretty much kind of a sniper situation, I think was the whole thing. You're in a hide. If you had a laser, you could have lased it. You could get your dope. You could dial. You could do whatever. Be ready to take that shot. But the failure rate for that was really, really high. Some of that, it was at the top of a pretty miserable hill. So, and right in the middle of summer in August in Kentucky. So by the time you got to the top of that hill, you're pretty miserable. So that probably didn't help it. But people either didn't have their dope, didn't know the target distance, whatever. But if you're a hunter and you go, oh, I know that I need to take the time to get this good squeeze and get a good position and break the shot. You've got that experience as to someone who's just always racing the clock, and they take 2 shots in the first 5 seconds and then they're done. It's like you had all day to make that hit. So, and that's what matches give you. You really do. It's one more way to get experience.
Yeah, I mean that time on the clock is invaluable. And yes, you can go to the range and you can practice drills, but it's not the same. It really isn't.
No, I do things at your matches. I run my own match every month, and I can do whatever I want, within reason at my match, practice, set up whatever stage is something I want to practice. But when I go to someone else's match, now I have to shoot in situations that I would have never thought about. Or, one, because the range is different, but 2, just different people have different thoughts. And so it's now I'm shooting, last year you guys had where you tied up one arm. I don't know that I would have ever thought of that. I've made people shoot single armed before in a match, but not tied up and not, loading the gun. And that was a situation I'd never been in. We did pretty well on that because we had enough experience to kind of know, okay, well, I want to make sure, when I grab my mag, it needs to be, I got to make sure I get my hand on it this way and get it in there. And, match experience, shooting experience kind of gave us a leg up over someone who's maybe never shot a match and had to do that. But I still learned stuff there because it was way, way different.
Yeah. The night match highlights a lot of those, like who has good handling skill and who doesn't. Because once the lights go out, either you got experience handling your firearm or you don't. It can get, I'm not going to say it gets scary for the RO, but the RO has to be on point, right? But
yes.
The way we try to control things, there's plenty of control. It's going to be a safe match. But yeah, once the lights go off, you can see who's been practicing and who hasn't pretty quick. And then on the subject of the match, we only talked about the stage prop guns. Our matches, so there's always a couple of stages I'll always have, and one of them is the Mad Dash style. We can rotate the distance, we can rotate out the positions and do different things, but it's the same concept. You're basically going to do a 50-yard run, assume some form of a shooting position, and fire 10 rounds, whether it's 5 and 5 or 3 and 3 or 3, 3, 4, but you're likely going to have 3 intervals for a total of 30 rounds. So we'll always have a Mad Dash style. The other thing we call it, one of our other styles, is around the clock. And around the clock is kind of the one where, all right, you got so much time on the board, do the physical rep to earn a magazine to get the shots, and then do it again. And then you can just do as many reps as you want to rack up as many points as you want. That does benefit the more fit guys. That being said, I'm not calling. I got 2 buddies that shot this stage RO day when we were practicing it, beta testing it. They got a 49 on it. Neither of them are PT studs. Neither of them are completely out of shape, but neither of them are PT studs. And one of them actually has to wear an exoskeleton to walk around. And they shot a 49 on that stage. So your weapons handling skills definitely matter. I mean, they were just efficient and fluid, and their communication was on point. Those guys had like you guys, shot together a lot. So I really enjoy the around the clock stages because it does kind of highlight the physical side to a point, but I think it highlights communication even more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, that stage, if you sat down and you guys went straight up the hill and everyone got each of their hits, it didn't take a whole lot of repetitions to get some points on there. And, we struggled a little bit. Like we said, we struggled a little bit with those further ones. And so we didn't quite take the time on it, but we lost points there to someone who was really dialed in and could get those hits. So, any match like that, we say, okay, well, we've got some physical fitness over, maybe someone else. We're going to have to lean on that because our shooting right now is not maybe what we want it to be. And it's like that. It's a balance. You can balance out. I mean, if you're a real PT stud, you could just really fly through there. I don't know. Maybe someone could just blast away at the close targets real quick, get a couple points and run around. I think like most good stages, there's a balance there. You couldn't just get the first 2 or 3 targets and call it a day and get enough repetitions to get your points. but you still needed to aim and hit your targets. But yeah, I guess going through quick doesn't hurt either. Like you said, the fitness, in life, being somewhat fit, is rarely a negative. So I've not seen many.
Yeah, I made the mistake of doing a match one time where we did it in the daylight, and then we thought, okay, we're going to transition to this exact stage tonight. And it was around the clock style. It was 2 positions, and you sprinted from one to the other laterally, left and right. And the targets were like 10 yards on cardboard, a 6-inch plate at 100, and then a 400-yard plate. So a big transition between all those. And there was a barricade on the left, and you were shooting prone unsupported on the right. And it was 6-round mags, 2 attempts at each. Well, at nighttime, we were like, hey, we need to adjust this for night. And it was a small match, so we were just kind of, buddies hanging out. Well, we made the mistake. We decided instead of moving targets all around before dark, we would just do 3 rounds on the 10-yard target and 3 rounds at the 100-yard plate. And that stage literally became who could just sprint and burn it down.
Yeah. I mean, anything, the further you get out and night shooting, definitely the harder it gets. Especially if the atmospherics aren't in your favor. And you're talking about RO, and we've shot and RO'd some night matches, like more USPSA, 2-gun style, like all bays. Earlier in the year, we did a night match that was a run and gun, and that was some of the hardest ROing that I've ever done. And you're absolutely right. You can see a difference in who's gun handling and who knows what their equipment is and where it's at, because especially if you're running nods, I mean, white light or headlamp or something, it's not that much different than day, but nods, you're not looking I I always look my pistol into the holster, almost always, because generally that's your safest thing. Take the time, get it safely in there. You're not looking your pistol into your holster with a night vision tube on. So, and luckily, I had the forethought to dry fire that. What are some techniques for safely getting that in there? There was 1 or 2 stages you had to hot holster. I was comfortable. I knew what was going on because I had just in the basement with the lights on, my PVS 14 there, figuring out off the clock how to do something. And same with like magazines. I mean, figuring out where my mags were. I think most people, if you run a chest rig, generally you want to keep your ammo kind of going across. So like, my mags that are full are here and empty mags are facing this way, and that kind of stuff. Ammo management gets a lot harder when you can't see what's right in front of you. So yeah, and then the rifle, same thing. It does not get any easier. If reloading's not kind of second nature, or running that, you're just not looking at your bolt catch, right? I mean, all that stuff has got to kind of be by feel and experience, as opposed to kind of looking it in like you can do during the day.
Yeah, and with that said, if you don't have those skills, don't let that discourage you from coming to the match. We always have what we call a skill builder division, and it was originally, that division was designed for guys maybe going through physical therapy so they could still participate in the match, and they would just omit the physical things. And then we've got some 60-year-old guys that like to shoot with us. However, none of them have ever actually used the skill builder division. They've all competed with us every time. But that aside, if you're nervous about the match, come shoot skill builder division, and the ROs are usually all experienced, and the ROs will help coach. If you show up and you're in the skill builder division, the ROs are 100% there to help coach. We don't necessarily, we're not the match where we try to trick people up with, did you memorize the stage brief? That's not this match at all. And especially not so for the skill builder division. Like, we're going to be 100% helpful. There's nothing in this match that someone can't do. And nobody's going to get on you for not having a certain skill set at all. You're only going to benefit from coming out. You're only going to grow your skill set. And meet a lot of good people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I from being around your matches, I know that's 100%. And that's really every match we've shot. People get nervous to go out and shoot, and well, I need to practice this, or I need to. You don't know the skills that you need. You really don't until you shoot a match. So go shoot it. Be a little embarrassed. Finish probably worse than you thought. You think I'm a pretty good shooter. I could probably. Maybe you do. You got someone that comes out that does way better than they expect. A lot of new shooters, they're the very bottom of the standings, and that's fine. When I first started shooting 3-gun and pistol matches 8 or 9 years ago, I was that bottom 1 or 2 shooters, for a while until I really figured out how, and there's still, I shot that night match this year. That was a new skill for me. Didn't have nods very long. Was using a borrowed gun because I don't have a night gun. Like, I don't have the stuff set up yet. And I was way, way down in the standings. Like, I was not real. It didn't make me feel great, but I learned a lot. And hopefully the next time I go, I finish a little bit higher. But gosh, 9 years and I can still tank a match and learn something. And it was fun. So that's the point of it. We're not out there winning Cadillacs, or no one's shooting back at us. So if I have a really bad day on the range, as long as I learn something, it's not a bad day.
Yeah, and that's the place to learn. Right there on that range where you have other people doing the same skills with you. Another great way that I've discovered to learn is if you do go RO, you get to watch 80 different people execute that skill, and then you go, oh, hey, that was a really good idea. I need to practice that.
Yep, that's huge, and one of the benefits that I've enjoyed from ROing, and then also the opportunities to give back. There's kind of this unspoken thing that most of the match directors have for like the running gun matches and stuff of like, hey, if this person is obviously struggling, probably going to time out, like they're not in a running, you're not going to boost them up to the point that they're going to climb and make something. But if you can, as an RO, keep them safe and also keep them moving for the match flow, then a little bit of coaching and stuff is going to make their experience better. I think that's like a big one that we're going to have with this upcoming match that Ryan and I are going to help with the Legion Memorial. Is we've got all different levels of shooters, a lot of military presence and families out of Campbell with 5th Group. And so you might end up with Gold Star families. And, you do whatever it takes to make those people have an enjoyable day. Whether you coach them, you hand them a gun, whatever. And that's one of those matches where, yeah, it's an amazing prize table and people are super competitive at the top. But what that match is about creating memories and memorializing the individuals that have given everything. And so it's a fantastic opportunity to give back as an RO and maybe coach some of those people at the right times and the right ways, where it doesn't change the competitive equity for the people that are really chasing that, but it still creates those good memories, those good learning experiences for those that need it. And one of the great benefits of going to these matches, whether it's your local 2-gun or 3-gun or going over to a match across the state, like when we go to Jimmy's match, or some of them are out of state, is you're making those lifelong friends, you're making those connections. There's guys that I talk to almost daily from around the country, and we send each other training videos and tips, and ask each other's opinions on what do you think of this gear or whatever. And those friendships mean a lot. Even if I don't get to see them in person all the time, I still enjoy them. And you never know who you're going to meet and what knowledge you can share or what's going to be shared with you.
Yeah, and most matches you can run a timer or the scoring paper or whatever. You don't have to be a certified RO or have tons of match experience. Generally, every stage needs one person that just herds people around, maybe writes down a score. Anyone could be taught that or can do that with just hey, when they come up, corral them right over there. Read them the stage brief, or just get them there, and I'll read them the stage brief, and you write down their time when it's done. I mean, it's pretty easy. So we'll kind of go to maybe wrapping this up. So let's once more the Save the Kids match. How many stages is so it's day and night?
Yep, we're gonna do Do 8 stages, 4-day, 4-night. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. A couple stage guns, which if you've never shot a match with stage guns, it's always a blast shooting someone else's guns.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear shotguns. You get a lot of crap in the tactical world because shotguns are this like dirty word. Like everyone likes their carbine, and then they do pistol because that's your sidearm, and then you put a shot. Oh, the shotgun's stupid. It's not practical. Yada yada. And then you put us on a stage, and it's like the 3-gunners are like, okay, well I know how this shotgun works. I know what to do, and it's a good skill to have. Shotguns still they have a purpose, even if it's taking down doves and breaching doors. There's still a use for it.
Yeah, they're most commonly used for copperheads at our range.
Yep, there you go. That's not a bad. I think a nice tight choke probably doesn't hurt things there. Kind of. I will say for people coming, if you're not real experienced with shotgun, you're gonna go out. You're gonna buy your buckshot for this. Buy good buckshot. If you go out and you buy and I've got some, the pack of Rio, that's $5 or $6 for 5 of them or whatever. That Rio is not, well, it's underpowered for one. It's so it might not cycle it. And the other thing is it's not going to pattern well. Where you point it and where it goes, and there you can have a big halo in the middle. But shotgun ammo is like precision rifle ammo. You absolutely get what you pay for, and the cheap stuff, unless it's just general target birdshot with slugs and buckshot, you get what you pay for. So I'll give some people a tip there so they don't show up and miss every target because they got junk ammo.
Yep, that's excellent advice. And so yeah, you don't have to bring federal flight control. Pretty sure that's probably not the level that you need to go to for this match. But picking up some decent Remington or Winchester or Federal will probably suit you pretty well.
Is it all paper? Is it all paper? There's no like spin. Okay, just say if there's spinners, then what you really want is the what's that stuff, Mike, that everyone used to use back in the day? Prairie Storm. Pick up your Prairie Storm, and you get the spinner to spin with one target. And if it's a Texas Star, just hit the center with Prairie Storm, and all of them will fall off, and you're good to go. Old school 3-gun gamer techniques.
Yep. Quick plug story. Back at a 3-man 3-gun at Rock Castle days, there's always rules about what you can bring and what you can shoot, and they had a spinner, and it got railed on all weekend, and then I step up and I shot it, and it was I'm pretty sure it was just kind of a hot low base load, like 6-shot pheasant, but still low base, and first shot the whole thing knocked over. And everyone was just like, oh, yeah, you definitely Prairie Stormed it or buckshot it or something. So they start looking all over the ground for the spent shell and then looking to see what was in the gun to try to, I'm like, hand him what's out of the gun. There's no high brass on the ground. I was like, no, I think that just was about to fall over, and I punched that ticket. But before we get too lost in the weeds, since we're coming up on the end of this, Jimmy, do you want to tell us what classes does your training company, Whiskey Hotel, offer? If you're doing these matches and stuff, let's do a quick plug for your company.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we do DMR 1, 2, and 3. So our DMR program are 1 days. My family and I go to church, and I don't do 2-day classes, and I don't do Sunday matches because of that. I spend that time with my wife and kids, and I have 6 kids, and I'm not Catholic. That's always the next question that follows up with that. But no, so we have DMR 1, 2, and 3. It's a 3 separate 1-day events. And what we do is, basically you get homework after you've done DMR 1. And then when you come back to DMR 2, we just keep building on that skill until you're in DMR 3 and you're doing a lot of field craft. We like to, range estimation with maps and stuff like that. And there's a lot of little perks to all these little side things, and target hunting and finding targets that are camouflaged in the woods and different things like that. So we don't do just the marksmanship skill, though we do a lot of marksmanship skill. We also don't get focus on a lot of supported shooting. In DMR 3, by the time you're 10 a.m. into the class, you've engaged targets out to 500, and you've done it from multiple shooting positions to include standing and kneeling and all that stuff. At the end of DMR2, usually, I want to say just about every student has engaged and made impacts of 400 standing. So we go through a lot of different techniques and just develop the shooter. That's kind of the goal. Like, hey, let's not rely on these tools or this gear. So that's our DMR program. We do have a pistol program. It's just right now, it's just pistol 1 and 2. I'm not sure when we're going to release more of that. I've got other guys that actually run that program. I'm kind of get known as the guy who doesn't like pistols. That's not true. The lineage of the match is a combat rifle match, and pistols weren't very prevalent. And that's, I thought it would be fun to have a match that only has one gun in it. And the next thing we're going to be releasing here soon, well, we're going to be doing 2 Team Rucks next year, and then we'll be doing what we're calling the DMR Masters program. And that's going to be more like an expert test, if you will. So you'll show up, it'll be almost like stages, but we'll say, hey, 90% is the master score. And you'll go through and shoot all the other 10 stages and try to test out. And we'll have like a little patch or something for the Mastercraft and DMR. But yep, DMR is kind of our bread and butter, I guess.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there's a lot of that fieldcraft stuff. I know I want to get more into it. I'm ranging, and range estimation is something I'm really needing to practice. Maybe this winter when all the corn's down and I can see further at the places I can shoot. But there's a lot of good use for those kind of skills that you maybe don't get every day.
Yeah, and so even though Ryan and I have not taken any classes from Whiskey Hotel yet, we've got several friends of the show that have, and they all have gone back or are planning on going back for more. And so I know Ryan and I, it's been on our list of something we've been wanting to do, and we're really looking forward to a future opportunity when we can try to get into that environment as well, because it's something that we both know that we have a lot of area to grow on. And so, yeah, it's just an excellent opportunity. I can't believe this is in Ohio. A lot of people in our area are sleeping on this. They have no clue that it's right there. So I'm really glad that we can get this out, and then more and more of the competitive shooters are going and taking these classes.
Yeah, it can be intimidating when you have competitive shooters show up because they have good skill level as the instructor, right? But one thing I've learned is experts are fine with training basics. That's how they became experts, so
it's all just basics.
It is. It's all just
basics, just faster usually.
Yeah, there is no secret key.
No, not at all. So, all right, we're gonna. I don't know. Have we set a date of this match yet? So I don't know that we've mentioned. I'll put it in the notes, but we should probably tell people that.
Yep, September 28th. Save the Kids. It's going to run from 3 to midnight. We're fairly efficient. That's one thing I take pride in, is the efficiency and the flow of my match. Usually people aren't sitting around for too long. So I hope that we're going to be able to get all the shooters through there. I have a goal of trying to raise 10 grand for these 2 companies in total. We'll see if we can hit that number. I don't know if we will. Wanted to shout out Fox's Jewelers because Jason donated some stuff that we're going to raffle off at the event. Yeah. So a big shout out to him. Thank you very much, Jason. So bring some cash if you want to participate in some of the side raffles, and we might try to do a few other things for fun as well. I'm sure we'll cook something. We usually do because, halfway through everybody gets hungry. But yeah, it's going to be a good event. Don't let the gear or the skills or the stages or distances intimidate you. It's a very doable match, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's the big emphasis that we're trying to put on this match specifically.
Absolutely. And I mean, your Team Ruck match was an absolute blast. So I'm sure this one will be even better. And you got 3 guns, you got stage guns, you got night shooting. Night shooting's awesome for people who haven't done it. It's way different. You are going to learn. If you've never shot, you are going to learn something. And really, even if you have shot at night, you're still going to learn something. So we'll wrap this up. But I'll put a link in here somewhere on this about is that on your website, right?
So we're on Practice Score. We're telling people, we're not taking payments through Practice Score. Just go sign your name up, and then you can hand the money to the charity groups hand to hand. Bring cash, pay it directly to them. That way we're not losing 3% through Stripe and all the other stuff.
Yep, that sounds good. And that's pretty typical with that. Keep as few fingers in the till as possible when it comes to a charity match. So I'll put some links in there, try to put it in the Facebook or the YouTube as well. And go check out the match if you're in the Ohio. That's kind of Southeast Ohio. So really, if you're in Kentucky, it's probably not that far. There's quite a few places. It's a couple hours drive, and you will not be disappointed that you went. So anything else to say before we close this up?
No, I think I'm all good. I appreciate it, guys.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, you guys, and see you out in the range.